See this? This is a bit of wasteland outside of some modern building, some community purpose. Don't even know what it is. On the outskirts of Dumfries in Scotland. What I want to capture here is, see all these seeds? These are seeds of dandelions, dandelion flowers, the birds and bees. The point is, society tries to get rid of these weeds, dandelions, called weeds. Doing a pretty good job here because they've totally changed the landscape. This building property, not there. There's the remnants of an old wall. Some trees. Yeah, landscape, but some machinery. Would have been dug by hand. Someday this will be a car park like the other bits. It'll be a turning point. There's a bit more of that old wall. And there's more weeds. Yeah, common weeds that we all know of. With little flowers. The insects and the birds. There's a playground with humans. Bit of shade. I don't know what the hell this thing is, but sports ground of some sort, I think. Maybe. But again, through the trees. Some houses. Some shopping trolley dumped by some humans. Maybe under the influence of some alcohol. And there's still quite a bit of nature. We're here on the edge of this Dumfries town. Some guy come through here earlier. Look, somebody's done a bit of dead ditching, dead hedging, that might be called. Forget-me-nots. Lots of nettles. Lots of iron. Lots of green space around here, see, because it's the edge. This is a poor area. Dumfries, southwest Scotland. It's all a poor area. As in not very populated. As in not very built up. As in not very civilized. As in not very modernized. As in not lots of money pumped into it in order to squeeze more money out, kind of thing. As in an area that used to be densely populated, back during the time of the so-called Irish famine, back during the mid-1800s, there were millions living in this area. Now just some tens of thousands. So, the colonizers, the British, the English, the Normans, call them what you will, see, but they depopulated this area over the space of a few years and a few decades. It didn't really take too long. And now there are statues in the local towns, like Newton Stewart, named after these Norman conquerors, as if these Freemason dudes were the good guys, as if they were beloved by all, as if they brought justice and peace, as if they civilized. Would civil lies? Lots of forget-me-nots here. Nice name for an indigenous. So there, you could call that a fence or a barrier. Mostly made of wire, but somebody's been careful enough to make it a bit prettier and tidier by putting the deadwood branches here. Maybe alongside the sound of traffic you can hear the sound of running water. The current that flows to the sea. And there's a current sea with banks and streams. And the thing I'm kind of intending on talking about, with this camera pointing at me or around at the environmental, ecological circumstances in which I'm situated as I sit. The thing I want to talk about is language and the word being the logos, the English being French, the French being Latin, the Latins being Italians in Iberia, Siberia. Language, words, syllables, sibyls, destined to be prophets, to prophesy, to prediction. And what I want to really talk about is a time before talking, a time before speech, a time before the English language, a time before the English language became the law of the Torah, of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and a time when the Torah became the Christian logos. In the beginning was the law. In the beginning was the word. Some of the words that Christ said is like, don't swear, don't take an oath. And yet the law is you're brought into a court and you're asked to swear on the Bible and take an oath to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. So you got to question what the word truth means then, because no one can tell the whole truth, especially if it involves other people. There are some serious holes in the Bible. Maybe tell the whole truth doesn't have a W. Hole. See, one of the parts of the Bible in the New Testament is where Jesus is out in the desert. He's out in the desert on his own. He's been out there for nearly 40 days and 40 nights. He hasn't been eating an awful lot, and he's getting a bit delirious. He's imagining, apparently, that Satan or the devil, Diablo, wherever you want to call him or her. But the idea in this part of the New Testament is that Jesus is being tempted. His temperament is being tested. The devil is protesting that Jesus' faith needs testing. The devil is protesting Jesus' faith. The interesting thing is how Mark, Matthew, Luke or John, whichever of those four supposedly wrote this bit down, but they write about what's going on inside Jesus' mind, in his head if you will, in his psyche. They're reporting this incident of the conversation between Jesus and the devil, of the things which the devil promises Jesus if he will forswear or deny Yahweh or God or his Father, or whichever of the translations into English that we English speaking people might prefer. Whichever of these translations prevailed. And my point is that there was nobody there to witness this. Whoever has written that story down is using theatrical devices. They're painting a picture with words. They're painting a picture with symbols. They're literally painting a symbol with letters, making up words and sent hence as paragraphs, as a story to be stored in your head. However, in the oral tradition, storytelling around the fire is kind of different to the written word, or the acting out of theatrics. Storytelling is what I'm doing here. It's just an oral tradition of speaking off the cuff as one goes along, knowing the story inside out, knowing the story off by heart, but being able to adapt for the audience, being able to feedback with the audience in the moment, not just regurgitate the same old words the same old way, kind of thing. So a story can evolve from being told so many times, and a story can evolve from being told generation to generation. But it's largely in the rhyming of the words. It's largely in the iteration and alliteration. The rhyming scheme. It's largely in the metre of poetry that these words have a ring of truth. A ring of truth that can bind together. A ring of truth which is like the light round a fire at night, kind of thing. I tend to think that I lose a lot of people because I speak in riddles, because my words rhyme so much, because I literally take the words apart and speak figuratively so much of the time. It's complicated what I'm doing. Although what I'm doing is simplifying things, it's still complicated because of division. Division, di meaning two, like diabolical. Diabolics. Bollocks. Men's stones grow a pair of balls, kind of thing. Diabolical. Diabol. Diabols. Diabolical. Diabla. Diagonal, diametric, diagnosis, diagonal, dia. Dia Ascaelga means God, or divinity, or deity. Dia. Dia Muire Dit. God be with you. Dia is Muire Dit. God be with you also. Ascaelga, in the Gaelic language, in Irish, kind of idea. And there's a strange mix between the English and Irish languages. I've heard myself say many a time that it's the Irish who made the English. I've also said that English is somehow derived from Hebrew, and I've obviously just said that English is derived from French. The French is derived from Latin. Latin is derived from the Italians, as in the Romans. It's all tricky, isn't it? Very fucking tricky. But yeah, mixed an English word with an Irish word. Me, dia. Me meaning I am, and dia meaning God. The media is saying I am God. That I'm a little God. The media is about speaking your truth. The media is about invoking. The media is about communicating. The media is the message. The message is the medium. Here's another one I find interesting with the English and Irish language. Smashing. Smashing is something that the English might say when something is fabulous. But smashing is also a word for breaking a glass. You smash a glass against a wall. You can also smash a glass against a fireplace. So I have this imagining that back in the day, a long time ago, there were English lords living in Ireland as liege lords, landlords. Absentee landlords who might visit sometimes, and when they'd visit, of course, the servants would all be gathered around and the servants would have to serve their lord. Kind of thing. So you would have Irish servants serving English lords, English families, and the English aristocracy. Of course, the English would claim that they would like to learn a little bit of Gaelic Irish to slum it as slum landlords. So there was a tradition of drinking a shot of whiskey or poitín and being drunk and possessed by demons and liking to smash things. You'd take a drink and then you'd throw the glass into the fireplace. Of course, the glass would shatter or smash. And is má sin. Is má sin means I like it. To drink a toast, you smash the glass into the fireplace. And you learn a little bit of Gaelic Irish by saying is má sin. I like it. And that's how the word smashing translates in English into I like this. Not merely a destructive thing, but a celebration thing. Smashing, darling. Now, I don't know if that's actually true. That's folklore that I came upon in my own mind once upon a time, and it remains in my mind. That Mark Twain thing that remains in somebody's minds. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Kind of thing. Anyway, the thing I intended to chat about here, the thing that's disturbing me this morning and generally these days, is about the media. The so-called alternative media and what social media is doing to us all. And I think I'm coping with it pretty well. I read an awful lot. I read comments. I mostly read comments. And I write. The social media helps you write stuff. It doesn't really help publish it. It helps me press, share, or post, or whatever it's called. But apart from letting the social media platform of Facebook do the sharing for me with its algorithm, I'm not really too bothered about the fact that not too many people read what I'm writing. I'm aware that what I'm writing is complex. It's kind of insane. There's a lot of madness. Madness not in terms of anger anymore. Wouldn't be surprised if my stuff was more popular if I wouldn't be called a shill by so many people who are so fearful that they see anyone as pointing out that fear stands for false evidence appearing real, scary. That these fears that are being passed around are like an epigenetic thing that we really have to process those fears. We've got to figure out beyond just reacting to fear. Reaction and creation, same word, same letters. Silent listen, same word, same letters. Time emit, same word, same letters. These don't have to be hard concrete walls, contrast walls. You don't have to pick a side of the fence for which side of the fence to be on. One can actually hop over the fence, be on both sides, straddle this fence, see from all kinds of angles, see from before the fence was even built. Looking at a fence, by the way. Not particularly what's going on with over in Ireland again. And I can see from outside of that field because I'm not living in Ireland. I don't think I'd do too well if I was living in Ireland because there's so much epigenetic trauma over in Ireland. And it's tricky with the racism in Ireland because the racism in Ireland used to be like a racism against the Irish Gaelics. It used to be a racism against the English. The English and the Irish used to be racist against each other as if they're different races, which is hard to get your head around because obviously they're both white and quite related. But I tend to think that that's actually that the original Irish people, or like indigenous people, are actually Neanderthals. In that sense, it's a different race. Not to do with the colour of skin, not to do with just where you're born in this lifetime, but an epigenetic biological difference. A difference in the way the brain works. A difference that's everything to do with the prefrontal cortex, which is everything to do with diction. which therefore has everything to do with being able to create a model of the future for prediction, to predict what's going to happen. So there are two sides to the brain. There's a left side and a right side. And they say that the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body, and the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. And the left is feminine, subconscious, and the right is masculine, conscious. The left is the inner world, and the right is the outer world. Right hand, left brain. So the point being is they swap over, isn't it? But the other point is that Christians scared of Muslims, Muslims scared of Jews, everybody's scared of Jews, Jews scared of everyone else. There's other sorts of racism that are actually theologies that are all to do with different versions of written words. Been studying things. Apparently the Persians are the ones who got the Old Testament to be written as the Torah. And the Persians end up being who we now call the Muslims. But for sure, most people would think that it's the Hebrew Jews who created the Christian circumstances later in time, followed on by the Muslim Muhammad prophet religions. The whole concept there is about prophets. Prophets are prediction. The idea of a prophet is a prophet can see what's going to happen in the future. I've got to go and collect my kids from class. Anyway, I wrote some stuff this morning that goes along with this, so I'll post them together. Bye.